Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the new episode of the Thomas Podcast here. We're in 2022. Can I get like a small kind of like way? Are we happy? Not happy? Do we care? Do we care? 2022.
Give me a little mini wave.
Thank you, mate. I
It could be a
appreciate
lot
it.
better.
New Year and all that.
Yeah, I've essentially
Look, we fell into this trap last year.
I mean, 2022, and who'd have thought it? We've lost Desmond 2-2.
The irony.
Desmond 2-2 didn't get
2-2 with no 2-2.
2-2 and Betty White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or as Denise Lassalle would say, get off of my 2-2.
but I think Betty White just summed up how shit 2021 was, right? To end it like that was just
Awful.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, our dear friend Reece Jenkins is heartbroken.
Oh god. Well, that's a great way to start the show in 2022. Of course, as you can hear, I'm joined by John, Owen to my right, Elijah to my bottom left, and Beef to kind of my middle right, I suppose. It's kind of like a 5 formation, but I'm in the central middle. It's like the shit Avengers.
Hey,
Excuse me. We have 6 on the call. Can't you see? My friend Chris.
Your friend Chris.
Joining me.
How are we?
7.
7. How are we all? How are we all? Are we okay?
Yeah, it's just like I say, before you blink, the season's over and it's back to regular 9-2-5 coming up very shortly. So, yeah.
I mean, some of us have still got a week off.
Yeah, all right, cheers, rub it in. Why don't you?
Yeah, okay, John.
Got tomorrow off. So
I'm not back to the 10th, so I'm good. But yeah, overall, obviously, during the festive period, we had festive Strictly Come Dancing, which everyone loved. I'm sure I didn't watch it. I watched. There was a lot of Bradley Walsh on the TV. I realised that he was on. I think he was on Blankety Blank and the Larkins. So I watched that. There was no Doctor Who because yeah. So we got it. We got it on New Year's Day instead. I always feel with these episodes they should be on New Year's Eve, right? Because they're always set on New Year's Eve.
Why would you have it on when nobody's going to be watching the television?
Well, according to Twitter, nobody watches Doctor Who anyway. So
Even less people would watch Doctor Who if you have it on when nobody's going to be watching the television.
just Chris, write it on New Year's.
I mean, the only thing that really works on New Year's Eve is generally EastEnders because they stick it on just before people go to the pub or start or crack into the booze. And
That's fair.
But if anything should have drive you to drink, it's probably that.
I'll never forget the year they killed off Tiffany on New Year's Eve. I hit the bottle. I was out my face by about 9:30.
Jesus Christ. But yes. Not much to report really in terms of the things that have happened this week. Obviously, we've all just been busy with, the kind of like the Christmas week and just chilling, I suppose, all of us, right? It's kind of that week where you don't really know what day it is. You kind of just, every day is a new one. You don't really care.
Everyone's a new one. They just begin significantly later.
Yeah. It's kind of been like being stuck in a time loop, ironically. I mean, I've been blasting through my season 17 box set.
Oh, very nice.
I've watched the first 3 discs and all of the lovely extras on those. Highly recommend the Douglas Adams documentary on disc 2, the City of Death disc.
Seconded. I just watched that today. Yeah.
And the Lalla Ward interview is very good as well. In terms of her levels of diplomacy are very good at that point, shall we say. But yeah, the Lalla Ward interview on the Creature from the Pit disc is really good as well. So I watched Nightmare of Eden with the updated effects yesterday. Loved that. That's always been my favourite of that season. And I'll probably work through the extras on that tomorrow.
I've only seen 2 of the stories from the season ever. Obviously watched Horns of Nimon and I've seen City of Death. So yeah, overall I'm excited because neither of those 2 blew me away. I mean, one is significantly better than the other.
Blow you away.
You have to watch all the versions of Shada.
It's like for me, City of Death is middling. It's like I know. It's. I know.
Okay, I mean, I know.
I know.
No, it's
I know. I mean, in your case, at least, I know you're not just saying it to be controversial. You genuinely do have shit opinions.
Yeah, I know. Like, I think the thing for me was my friend was like, "Oh, this is the best Tom Baker, this best Doctor Who's ever been," and I'm like,
yeah.
and I'm just sat there and I watch it, and I had like these like massive expectations, and then, like, I was like, okay, it's like a solid 8. It's like a solid 8. It's good.
There's a lot of running around Paris. It's a very nice script with some very nice ideas and a very smart script that's quite funny, but it's maybe not quite the 10-star classic that people say it is.
yeah. Just remember, it was written in a weekend. Yeah.
Like literally, Douglas Adams wrote it locked in Graham Williams' study with an endless supply of coffee over the course of a weekend.
And perhaps
Just
the
ha-
occasional bit of whiskey.
Which is how all the good Doctor Who stories are written. Am I right? Obviously, guys, the Christmas podcast went out, which was fun. 3 hours of fun. Just to let the viewers know.
20 minutes
some of you
of fun for some of us.
So some of you might be able to tell. Most of it was cut down. I think the original cut was 3 hours 40. So there was a few bits I cut out of it, and it still was 3 hours.
I was surprised at some of the bits you kept in.
Yeah, there's a lot I just kept in. I was like, I thought it was fun. There's a lot of it. That podcast is a lot more laid back. So if you don't listen to the Christmas podcast, it's quite Christmassy. So if you're done with the Christmas period and you're like, ugh, don't bother. There'll be one this year as well, I'm sure, which feels weird to say.
Wait, Alex, are you telling your listeners not to listen to one of your podcasts?
I'm saying if they're just not in the Christmas spirit anymore, then maybe not. I don't want to waste their time.
I mean, I would save it for Black Monday when all of your bills come in, and in a couple of weeks' time when you're feeling really depressed, stick the Christmas podcast on, and it might give you a bit of a giggle.
There you go. That's the better way of doing it. Yeah. Thank you very much. John is my marketing man. He can market any episode.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I just don't tell listeners not to listen.
I am my own worst enemy. Owen, last time you were on the show, you did a bit of advertising for yourself and got called out on it. I literally remember the episode ending with John calling you like a shill or something. So I'll do it for you. Now I use my book for this. You can get this at the Who shop. Go to the Who shop. It's great. There's so much Doctor Who shit. The end of the plug. Thank you very much. Do not mention it again on the show.
Yeah, just don't call it Who shit. Yeah, yeah. They sell a lot of Who shit.
They're very good.
Yeah.
They're very good. They treat their customers very well. Unlike certain other retailers, you may not find horror stories about the Who shop.
Let's just say you give them money, you get the stuff you ask for. Yeah. That's how it works. Yeah.
We won't go into any further detail, but unlike other certain retailers, you will not find horror stories about the Who shop on Twitter.
They have a lot of Who memorabilia, would be the best way of saying it. Shit doesn't mean shit in my vocabulary. It means a lot of stuff.
And a very good museum. And if you go in there on the right day, you can even meet Mr. Owen Luckhurst of the Timeless podcast.
Yes, exactly. Normally he'll just be sat at his desk listening to some Big Finish organising stuff.
Yeah, don't interrupt his Big Finish.
If you get super lucky, you'll even see me and Sparky sitting in there.
Absolutely. Owen, anything else you want to add on this advertisement for the Who shop?
No, you've done it all for me. Thank you very much.
No trouble.
Good night.
No, you ain't getting a discount.
How are you, Owen? Obviously, you're wearing a dressing gown, so you're quite cozy. I'm going to assume you're drinking some tea.
I am, yes.
How are you, sir?
I'm all good. Thank you very much. I'm all well.
You're looking very Ford Prefect.
A what?
Very Arthur Dent, rather.
Oh, okay.
Arthur Dent from Hitchhiker's Guide, who obviously rocked around in a dressing gown.
Got the 10th Doctor in Christmas Invasion. Very Arthur Dent.
My next question is to Elijah. And Elijah, my question to you is, are you going to stick around for the whole episode this time?
Let me check my calendar here.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's
have
see.
you got a day at Pizza Express?
It's like a magic 8 ball.
Yeah.
Chances say no.
iPhone says no.
Oh shit. Yes, welcome back. And Beef, obviously everyone knows who you are by this point. How are you? So how was Christmas? You have sent us a photo of your Christmas meal. It looked bloody delicious, mate.
Well, I had nothing to do with making it, just the consuming of it. But no, it's been a nice and quiet family Christmas. Not much else more to report than that, to be honest with you. yeah, it's nice to have the time spent with the nearest and dearest. All my plans of the things that I was going to do just completely go out the window because you lose all sense of meaning of time. But I suppose if this isn't the one time that you can take to just take the foot off and pause and relax and whatever, then when can you do it? So normal service of hustle and bustle will resume anew in a couple of days or whatever, or when I can fully put my bloody finger out and bloody do something. But in the meantime, all well and good. So it's been nice.
It's been a relaxing time.
It's been nice. No, and apart from Betty White, no one's died. So that's cool.
And Desmond Tutu.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And Betty.
He never sent me a card.
And Betty.
Did Betty White send you a card, Beef?
No.
Oh.
Or even a record token.
Anyway, shall we get into some Who? Obviously, this was released last night to the masses.
Well,
John,
to 3.25 million people.
The masses. If you're feeling up to it, mate, do you want to give a down? Your usual breakdown of what goes on, or
yeah, I'm happy to do so.
Sweet.
So we start off with a storage facility, which is run by a lady called Sarah, and she has one customer on New Year's Eve, and it's a very nice chap called Nick, who in his storage unit keeps lots of possessions of women, and is most definitely not a serial killer or any form of creep. He's not sending off any red flags at all. There are no warning sirens going off at any point around him during this episode. He's absolutely, completely, 100% legit. And, ladies, if you meet a man who keeps the possessions of like 20 different women in a storage unit, it's absolutely fine. Nothing dodgy there going on at all. They're in a storage unit. And in the storage unit, there is also a Dalek, which gets a bit exterminating. The Doctor, Dan, and Yaz arrive in the basement whilst the TARDIS is effectively healing itself from the remnants of flux, because apparently that wasn't entirely self-contained, and we're holding over into the special to tidy that little bit up. So while they've got to take a little break, cloister bell's going off in the background, which indicates that there's something going on. Long story short, the storage unit is caught in a decreasing time loop. So you start off with 8 minutes, and then you've got 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, etc., etc. And the time loop resets every time the Daleks kill the Doctor, which they do with regularity. It's quite a nice little sort of time loop story, because you kind of see the Doctor strategizing and then making mistakes and learning from those mistakes, but the Daleks also anticipating what they're going to do and sort of learning from their actions, etc. During the course of all of this going off, it finally gets confirmed to us that Yaz is in love with the Doctor through Dan doing a little bit of Cilla Black sort of, "Come on, love, tell us what's going on, eh?" And I'll come on to that later. I actually quite like that. But you could literally hear the masses screaming at that point, because it was what a lot of people wanted to hear. Dan also talks to the Doctor about this, and he's kind of like, you must have picked up on what's going on, and the Doctor's quite evasive about it. But it's nice to see that being addressed. Eventually, through finding a lot of fireworks in one of the storage units, they decide to trick the Daleks down into the basement. They set up a bit of a sort of masking device using Sarah's phone. On the phone to her mammy, played by the wonderful Pauline McGlynn. And the Daleks basically blow themselves and the warehouse up, and everybody escapes at midnight. it leads to lots of fireworks going off at midnight. For some reason that's only beknownst only to Chris Chibnall, we then get Carl from The Woman Who Fell to Earth just staring at fireworks and going, "Oh, it's just for me," which is a bit random. And then we get, right at the very end, we get to see Sarah and Nick, who is most definitely not a creep, most definitely not dodgy, most definitely not a weirdo or a potential serial killer, going off into the sunset with a taxi with a big suitcase, which almost certainly does not contain a dead body.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Is this of a suitable size to hold one?
Yes,
almost, and was pretty hefty as well.
yeah.
When I say almost certainly does not contain a dead body, you know what I'm saying there.
Absolutely. Right, guys. So I think the best way to do it is general thoughts, and then we'll go talk along the episode. I've also got some notes here if things I forget to talk about as well. But overall, I'm actually going to go first on this one because this could be a diverse panel of thoughts. I overall thought this is
on the podcast.
Thought that this, yeah, I know, right? Oh. Never happened before. Is I thought this was a nice bit of cheese. I thought it was fine. And you know what? For New Year's Day, that's all Doctor Who has to be. It's fine. I'm not looking for a 10 out of 10, classic. I thought this was fun. I really like Groundhog Day. It's like Groundhog Day, but with Daleks. And I thought that this was a lot of fun. Yes, there are some problematic character traits, which we shall get into. It's rather funny, actually. It's not intended, but it's really written strangely. I like the concept as well of the time it's becoming short and short. I thought that was a really good way of injecting some fear and some sort of urgency to the story. Overall, I just thought it was fine. Like I'm it's one of those episodes where I know me, John, and Owen have reviewed them before, but we go, yeah, it's fine, it's adequate, it does the job that it said it was going to do on the tin, and I left relatively happy. Who wants to go next?
I'll have a go if you want.
Yeah, go on.
This is probably my favourite of the New Year's Day specials, but that's not a massively high bar. I think this benefited from having a really small cast because you actually got to see some properly fleshed out characters. It probably benefited from having that kind of smaller base under siege setting as well. That always works quite well. It had the feel of a kind of classic story with a bit of sort of running down corridors and stuff like that. There are elements to it that I found problematic, as you might have picked up from my plot synopsis. There are one or two things that I found baffling, which I'm sure we'll come on to. For me, the best thing about this was Aisling B. I think she was fantastic. And I really want them to do a Catherine Tate with her and sort of bring her in for as a companion for Series 14. I think she'd be great. She was the best thing in it by a country mile. It kind of felt a little bit like Jodie taking a step back from where Jodie was at the end of Flux, because I thought that Jodie was really bossing it towards the end of Flux, and now she's gone back to being a little bit more inconsequential. I liked the Yaz stuff. I mean, the big thing that I would point out really is something that my 11-year-old nephew, who loves this era and loves Jodie Whittaker, said to his mum while watching it. Apparently, Leon turned around to his mum and said, "Why are the Daleks shooting like stormtroopers?" So if an 11-year-old's picking up on that, it maybe needed a little bit more in terms of your monsters being a little bit more deadly.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you very much. Who wants to go next? I'm just going to open Elijah next. You don't need to raise your hand. This is an audio-based podcast. You can just speak.
Well, you are putting this on YouTube as well.
Dude.
So, as Alex said, it was a fun bit of cheese, whereas I would say it was a moldy bit of cheese. And my analogy to that is I love cheese. Cheese is great. Doctor Who's great, but not when it's moldy. I don't know. I'm just kind of sick of the Daleks. I think the Thasman thing, I have no problem with it, but I just feel like they left it way too long towards the end of Jodie's run. It's like, oh, so now you're going to bring it up way near the end. You have 2 episodes left. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the Rose and 10th Doctor thing either, but I just feel like if you're going to do it, why are you waiting till the very last minute? I did like the time loop thing. I thought the characters were actually intriguing and interesting. Definitely not dodgy at all. But I'd like to see Nick and whatever her name is again. I think bringing them back in some capacity would be nice. But overall, it was watchable. But yeah, that's about it.
Who wants to go next? My microphone turns off. Owen, you're up next.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. When I don't know where I heard it, they said it was going to be like a rom-com sort of episode, and I thought, oh, here we go, because I don't like rom-coms that much. But yeah, watching last night's episode, I enjoyed it. It was cheesy. I love the visual effects of like the TARDIS going through the reset and all the walls are moving and you know all the console and the arches were moving about, and I thought that was like really cool. I didn't mind the Daleks with the new guns. I thought that was really cool as well. It kind of, to me, made them look a bit more deadlier than usual, and the Doctor couldn't use a sonic screwdriver and shit like that. And it was nice to see the TARDIS actually in flight as the sort of taxi with the two, what's the names, Nick and Sarah, when they leave at the end. And the whole visuals of the building collapsing as well. I thought that just like looked really dramatic. I thought it was rather cheesy, the whole sort of rom-com stuff, but it was great fun. I really, really enjoyed it.
And beef to you, sir. I actually don't know where you stand. As normally, I've seen your message. I don't know if it was like a full hate.
It's a struggle, because going into this, they said, "Oh, it's going to be the funniest one ever." And it's sort of, whenever you like build Doctor Who as being the funniest comedy ever, you just get a bit of knot in your stomach that says, "Well, it ain't. It's not." And yeah, there were jokes in it to be had. I would definitely agree with John that the MVP was actually Sarah, and carried it. It just seemed a bit garbled for a lot of it. There were aspects that I liked. I think going from something that is like a huge, massive scale thing that Flux was meant to be, to go into a smaller scale setting and have a time loop and it decreasing, yeah, I like that. But I think certain characters like Nick weren't fleshed out in a good enough way. I think his character was his character background and the way he was done was sacrificed for the sake of Ashley B, who's like your headline guest star. I definitely agree with Elijah as well. But I think while I can't, I'm the wrong person to say representation on screen, because I think it's important because it speaks to a lot of people, but I don't think it's been handled effectively. And I think for it to be handled effectively and done effectively, it also needs to have an input that is more than just a middle-aged white guy writing it as well. I think from a point of view of, if you are going to have, because I think loads of people have said, oh, we've been seeing this all along. To be honest with you, if you want to find something, you can find arguments and scenes or whatever to back it up. But I don't necessarily think the groundwork has been there. The idea of the situation with the TARDIS and the flux and everything like that, basically going to an IT-based solution of, oh, well, we'll just turn it off and on again, really isn't a valid way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
for me. And there's some aspects to the Doctor and following on from this that while I think you don't have to do it as a continuation, there are things that seem out of character that I sort of that niggled me, and maybe we'll get onto that as we go along.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Obviously, there were some big moments in this episode. Obviously, the thing that Elijah and Beaver brought up about the Doctor and Yaz's relationship, I kind of want to leave that towards the back half. I think that could open to a long discussion about the long-time storytelling that doesn't just include this one episode. And like Beaver said, how they can perhaps go forward, how it should have been written, and all that. So I kind of leave that to the end, and I kind of want to if that's okay with you guys. I think that could open a whole can of discussion of what we think is good, what we think is bad. One thing I want to do, I'm going to say this now, is that I put in my notes, only because John brought it up. I don't know if anybody else, I can't remember, is that I just thought with like Owen, the Daleks were used quite well in this. I really liked them. I liked the machine gun. I think it was silly, yes. But like I know Elijah said he doesn't like the moldy cheese. He's not a fan of the blue Stilton. But for me, it worked. And the Daleks having that bit of sass. I like a sassy Dalek. I think I just enjoyed it. Maybe I was just in a good mood yesterday. I don't know, but I watched it. I watched it again today, and I thought, yeah, they were menacing. They killed a lot of times, and I thought overall I liked the added machine gun. I think it's better than the one shot. I think it's cooler. Call me basic, but I liked it. I think
they fucking missed a lot of times as well.
That's.
Given that this is supposedly an execution squad that's been sent specifically to kill the Doctor, they weren't exactly taking the kind of sniper approach, were they?
No.
And to be honest with you, I think the easy way to do the comedy was to make the Daleks have the comedy lines, which is basically what they went for. Which was that's the easy way to do it. Not making punch and chili jokes to do with their voices, but obviously, yeah, it's the case of that. But I mean, the good thing about it was that, and I think that's to do with more the concept of the time loop, is that every time they would come back, that they would do something different. So it wasn't like, for argument's sake, like the point that you made with Groundhog Day, which is not, it's the same events playing out over and over again. Each loop could be done differently. So the actions that the Daleks took differently. I would have thought, to be honest with you, when Dan had the interaction with the Dalek, that the Dalek would have recognised Dan at that point, or at least identified it. Now, I know there's supposed to be two Daleks, but even then, it would have made sense. So that sort of was like a little bit of a niggle for me. But, if you run fast, you can avoid
I think the one saving grace, I could be wrong, the one saving grace of this, I like it, obviously, is the fact that the Daleks kind of, they molded in a bit later.
The Daleks were the least problematical thing about this episode.
Every time a character would, I suppose, teleport in or be reborn, is that they had a bit, I don't know what to call it, I'm going to call it time dysplasia. It would take them like 30 seconds or so to clock that they, especially the first couple of times that they were in a time loop, like we see Sarah and Nick the first time, like getting deja vu, but not really knowing that this is a time loop such scenario. So maybe when the Daleks saw Dan, it took it a few seconds to clock. Maybe, I don't know, I just enjoyed the scene. I put in my notes as well, just Dan. I thought John Bishop, as I've said all throughout Flux and this episode, was fucking fantastic. Like, I thought not only was he written well, I thought he had a lot to do. I thought he was brilliant throughout. I love the fact that he's
comedy in there as well. I found.
The fact he hates Manchester.
There's a lot of sort of like in jokes. There's sort of like hatred between Manchester and Liverpool, and
but even the fact that in this episode, I think it's kind of not undermined, but obviously because there's a lot going on, is that he literally sacrifices himself. I mean, he knows he's going to come back, as it were, but even the Doctor at that point says, we don't know. Because I believe that's only the second time of the time loop, or maybe the third, if I'm not mistaken. So the characters don't know everything of their surroundings just yet. And this man goes, "Yep, I'll do it. I'll distract the Dalek for you." And he set himself up to die. I thought overall John Bishop was brilliant in this. Obviously, there's the scene later on as well in which he's just as good. But yeah, I don't know. What do we all make of John Bishop and Dan's inclusion in this? Obviously, this is the first time where he's
If
not
you can-
connected to Flux style.
I mean, if we can just go back before we move on from the Daleks, one thing that niggled with me a fair bit, they turned around and they went, right, well, we're an execution squad that's been sent to kill you because of your actions in Flux. Why are they doing that now rather than take revenge for the dozens of previous times that the Doctor has foiled the Daleks, killed tons of Daleks, resulted in the Daleks losing wars? You know, the only time really that we've previously seen the Doctor targeted like that is in the chase.
Yeah,
There could have been a better explanation for why she was being targeted now. And it's like, well, I've kicked your asses hundreds of times in the past and you've just ignored it.
it's the same for me as the TARDIS thing with the Flux as well. Like John said, and I remember we repeated this hundreds of times in the podcast. It was meant to be a self-contained story. And yet we get to the start of Flux. And you know what? I thought, because we said as well, there would be some things overturning. I thought, oh, the TARDIS being broken and malfunctioning could be really cool going into the final third. We know the set is being destroyed. Maybe that's why they've done this, give it a little bit of a spruce up. For the last 3 episodes, TARDIS won't work properly. We got a bit of artwork. I thought, oh, is this building up to the TARDIS maybe exploding or something in the last episode?
Yeah, and
no,
to be honest with you, I didn't mind. I thought the VFX of that shot where they do reset it was good.
Yeah, it's great.
Very nice.
But yeah, I mean, moving on to Dan, it was a decent performance from John Bishop. I think of the 3 main characters, he probably had the least to do because obviously they were focusing more on the Doctor and Yaz in this one. But yeah, I think he was good enough. He played up the comedy roles quite well, and I like the way that the Daleks were kind of sassing him a little bit, and calling him the insignificant one and stuff like that.
We can't hear you, Alex.
Well, that's an improvement.
Having technical difficulties on his audio.
Are we back?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Fabulous.
Well, it lasted.
Oh, cheers, chaps. Yeah, I was going to say, I just said I agree. That was all I said. And then I was told that I couldn't be heard. I'm going to, is anyone else anything to say about Dan, or was everything said that you want to say? I'm just going to go through my notes. If I missed anything, please tell me. And then we can add. I also put the Sonic away. Right. And I'll say, like, in terms of just in general, I don't think you just sell it as a toy. I get that. But why the hell is she going, I'm going to scan a Dalek and just to say, I'm like, what? Why? And she goes, I've done this before. And I'm like, have you like, and like, I know they've done it in odd occasions where she's been able to calibrate the Sonic after a lot of exposition, going, well, if I do this to the Sonic in about half an hour, I'll be able to disable the Daleks. But just going like that is like, why?
I think RTD, when he comes in, just get rid of the Sonic again.
There was a lot of waving it around for waving it around's sake.
Mm-hmm.
When she first finds Nick's body, she scans a dead body with a Sonic. And it's sort of like, look, he's bloody dead. Just give him a breath.
Bloody dead, man.
But by the same token, it's like you say, oh yeah, I can disable Dalek weapons. It's just like it's it's a bit of false bravado that I think isn't necessarily needed anyway. Yeah, if you want to go into specifics, there's a different type of Dalek and a different type of episode. That I don't actually care about. It's just like, well, no, they're supposedly the most feared race in the universe, so you're not really taking it lightly. So yeah, just ditch the Sonic. Strip it back. What you're trying to do, strip it back and make it self-contained. There's no weapons. It's only what you've got in this ramshoddy warehouse and everything like that. Actually, the one thing I would say about Dan was, I actually like Dan because when he's there in the lockup, he's sort of like, I'll find the tools that I've got, and he's got like an iron in one hand and a ski in the other. He's obviously been in a few scraps before. effects. But yeah, I think the Sonic is you've got to do something about that. It's just a lazy thing to fall back on.
I don't
not
think
needed.
I don't think they need to get rid of it though, because like I think we do need to realize that Doctor Who essentially is a commercial thing, and everything is there to make toys. Very similar to Spider-Man in why in the recent MCU films he has 4 different suits every film. But you know, I think they just need. Why can't the Doctor just check Nick's pulse?
I think they just need to write it better.
Yeah, like I agree.
The Sonic's been there ever since we came back in 2005. It's not always been overused. So it's just a matter of
it's just falling back on something that's
using the Doctor's ingenuity and finding other ways to solve problems, and not using it as a fucking magic wand that does everything.
I know that they didn't use it much for Capaldi, because I know that Capaldi wasn't that much of a fan of the Sonic, so they kind of ditched it for a bit or didn't use it as much.
It's not a
I
magic.
think that's partly because Capaldi comes at it from the perspective of somebody who was a fan.
Yeah.
So he understands how actually using it as a Deus Ex Machina every fucking time.
I think the best use of Jodie's Sonic in this episode was when she was using it as a flashlight.
Yep.
That was about
Yep.
it.
Even that didn't work very well in the dark.
Right.
No. I've also put I thought the exposition is still an issue, and not in terms of this time Jodie Whittaker going, this means this. I mean, for some reason Chibnall has a weird thing of just the Doctor explaining what's happening. She has to go, we're stuck in a time loop, time's going down, we got 3 Daleks. Like, yes, we know.
You say for some reason. Can I suggest that reason is because he's a hack?
If you'd like to.
I mean,
I think that this, if you want it to go character by character, then say, that falls into the Doctor. That's, the exposition done from the Doctor is like, again.
Yeah, no, I don't understand. I understand that he's also trying to make it accessible for kids to watch. But I think this is an issue that most writers fall a pitfall that they go into, is that they write things for kids, like kids are dumb when they're really not.
Okay, we talked about Douglas Adams earlier. One of the greatest Douglas Adams quotes is about writing Doctor Who. He turned around and said, the key thing to writing Doctor Who is making it simple enough for the adults to understand and complicated enough to keep the kids interested. Yep. You don't dumb down for the kids. You don't patronize the kids. They'll fucking follow it.
No.
You know, I was 10, 11, I was like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old following it when through the sort of Baker and McCoy eras, when at times it would just get tied up and stuck up its own ass in its lore. But I was loving it.
Yeah. No, I think it's exactly that. And again, it's not Jodie's fault at all. Like, she delivers these lines with as much gusto.
Nobody's saying it's not Jodie's fault, but it is Chibnall's.
Yeah, totally. I was just saying that to bat the Twitters away, who always blame Jodie instead of the writing. I was not suggesting anybody here was saying that. What else have I got? I've also got, I know it's a bit of a takeout from, but I also put the music's quite strong in this one. I know Segan gets a bit of crap compared to good old Murray, but I thought in this one the music was rather all right.
There was music.
I really paid much attention.
I didn't really notice it, which probably suggests that it was quite good.
Yeah, which I think is the point. I'm not a massive fan of the Murray Gold like Gallifrey tunes, which just take over the scene. I like the one where there's the exposition jump and all the cool art, but I don't like it when it is more important than what the dialogue and the visuals. I think that's
I think it's important though to have like music when, like, so far, to put it back to something I can only reference to my childhood, is like the A-Team when they're building the machine to get them out of whatever. That's when the music plays a part. And for the fact is that I don't, there's nothing there that I can actually think, oh, there was their music. It's sort of, that's where I think perhaps then it's missing, because it carries you along with what's supposed to be happening with the story.
You know, I mean, you listen to some of the best, say, film scores, you listen to some of the stuff that Hans Zimmer does, like say for example the score to No Time to Die, it's brilliant because there are bits of that hook you back into previous films, that hook you back into previous moments of the film. And, so maybe you shouldn't be consciously noticing the music all the time, but it should be certainly taking you on that little journey where there are little things that you notice.
It
and
adds
it
to
throws something
dramatic
across the
cue.
synapse.
Yeah. It adds to dramatic cue. Where you say, Murray Gold became a bit of a trope to a certain degree, but it did sort of stress the drama or the action that was supposedly going on at that point.
Yeah. There's a reason that we don't do Doctor Who symphonies anymore or Doctor Who proms anymore, and it's because people can't remember the music.
Fair point. Fair points. Facts. Alex just hates Doctor Who themes, I guess. I never want to hear "I Am the Doctor" again.
Dun, 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 dun,
Jesus
dun,
Christ.
dun, 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 dun,
Jesus
dun,
Christ.
dun.
Right, next I know John's gonna have fun with this. I just put Nick, what the fuck? And
Let's fucking romanticize a potential serial killer.
It's bizarre. So specifically what I was talking about, I know what John's saying, it's the fact that this guy appears to catalogue. I'm going to call it catalogue because it's not just hoarding, it is cataloguing. His ex's gifts. Yeah, the names, the dates. Also, they appeared to be somewhat color-coded as well, which was rather bizarre. For me,
somebody made a really good point earlier in that it could be that this is actually a guy who's to a degree OCD. If that is the case, you need to establish that. You need to find a way to establish that, because actually, without establishing that, it just looks fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing with Nick, I kind of understand he was just trying to talk to Sarah, but like when he was talking about like, oh, what things are allowed and what's not allowed, I was like, okay, what's up with this guy? Like,
yeah,
got a bomb or something? Like,
how is a man so utterly useless at flirting, getting these dozens of women that he has bloody possessions of? He's a serial killer.
I mean, my favorite thing is that like it wouldn't have been okay, but it would have been somewhat, I don't know what it is, would have been not normal at all, a bit more normal if he was putting some more interesting things, not a fucking Monopoly board.
I mean, when they went to the lockup, there were even shoes and stuff in there.
It's make it one or the other. Yeah, make it. If you want to make it that he has this crush and just has crippling shyness and OCD tendencies, and he goes there every year because he knows it's going to be that, but don't make the motivation that on the side he can talk to plenty of women, he can get them back to what sounds like a really fucking plan, or as we call it, death cage. And
I mean, has anybody here ever left their Monopoly board at somebody else's house?
No.
Oh
no.
So
that stuff's expensive,
and that's it. To be honest with you, like I say, it's just like, oh right, we're going to flesh out Ashley B's character, but we're just going to cut and paste Nick from the generic book of bloke stereotype.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this, not in defense of Nick, but he did get one cool moment where a character in Doctor Who is smart for once. I always appreciate this. When a character just ducks and the Daleks take each other out, I thought, finally.
It was actually my favorite line in the whole of the episode. To be honest with you, everyone said Daleks don't have managers. No, you can't kill a Rasta. That was my favorite line.
Brilliant.
Because that was the best boss line in the episode. Yeah. And I respect the hell.
But it was another sign of the characterization being just all over the place, because he goes from being this awkward OCD guy to this super cool, I'm going to duck and cut you off with a one-liner.
Yeah. I I don't know whether I inherently agree with that because I think he was still after that very nerdy and silly when he was like, "Oh yeah, they were boss ones as well." And the Doctor goes, "All right, mate, don't sugarcoat."
I mean,
so
I'd add it's nothing against the actor, nothing against performance.
Yeah.
It's just the characterization of that character is all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to quickly talk about because I put here the central relationship of the episode. I find it quite mixed because I think they have good chemistry of each other. I think like Ashling B and I don't know the actor's name. I apologize. They bounce to each other very well. I think overall, without having back and forth conversations, you actually kind of buy into this sort of flirty, sort of not vibe. However, like John said,
Johnny Salmon.
Thank you very much. The backstory to that is borderline creepy. I love the scene where, like, obviously, Sarah goes, "You're a weirdo," and then Yaz and Dad like, "That's a bit harsh." I'm like, I'm fully with her. Like, that is bizarre.
I understand the time constraint of having the episode and everything like that, but it's just all done too much by the numbers. And while I can say, yeah, you can have a generic Doctor Who episode, which to a certain degree there are loads of tropes in this of running up and down corridors because that to use Chris Chibnall's own words against it, which this was, yeah. I don't know. It's sort of. I'm trying to think that this was more done to gain do a certain thing, which we'll get onto towards the end, I think, than really being massively story centric.
My next thing is that what I put here was legitimately I said that the pacing in this is pretty good. Because there's a lot of Chibnall's episodes where we go, the pacing's a bit crap. It's a bit all over the place. I thought this one moves at a click, is very fast, very fun, gets going relatively quickly. You know, it doesn't really stick around to explain itself too long. You can watch, like, this is going to be an episode that sort of, for me, not as good. I want to, as like a Unicorn the Wolf style. It's one of those, like, in a few years' time, if I'm bored, I might put this one on just because it's a fun hour. You know, and
I only watched it the once. I didn't bother watching it a second time, if I'm honest.
It's not, for me, it was never boring. I understand for some people they really didn't enjoy it, which is fine. This is why Doctor Who's great because there's so much of it. But some episodes for some, but for me, I thought it was really fun. Sue me, I'm positive about something. Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about the pacing because I know especially me and John in our episodes have had a go at Chibnall.
I think having the time loop in space in place gave Chibnall a bit of a structure to kind of work within, which I think probably helped the pacing. What I would add is that final loop clearly took them more than a minute.
Yep.
Yeah, the time loop forces the pace and forces the structure. That's for sure. I just think maybe the stresses could have been put at different points, like the bit where the Dalek takes out all the electrics in the building. That would have been better placed at a later stage in it because they have a plan in place, and then taking out the electric just like throws all their plans out the window. That would have been better placed to have been later on as opposed to earlier on. Yeah. Especially if the Daleks are supposed to be learning from every loop. Because otherwise they do that every
time. If they're learning, then why didn't they turn the power off every other time after that? Like,
I'm with you. There are some laps in logic. I don't know. I just had a good time. Right, there is one bit I really didn't like, and I understand this is like the gung ho part of the episode, but the speech that Jodie did to try to rile up the plan, where they have to go deal or what was it, like agreed, like they all go around in a circle and they all say the same word. I can't remember what the word was.
That's the speech. I didn't even notice.
It was the rousing speech where they all go around, and then they all stand up to the Dalek, they'll get shot. I was like,
you humans are all great, you are.
It was all a bit sort of like no Edmonds deal or no deal, so I was waiting for someone to just go no deal.
Yeah. Oh, it was deal. Thank you very much.
I mean, it was hardly fucking Henry V, was it?
Yeah, it was really bizarre. It was such a this big like heroic moment. I was like, oh.
I've sort of grown to sort of like, well, that's going to happen in a Christmas episode. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Christmas
And
cheese.
that's become a sort of a little bit of an ident that goes with it. So I'll let that go. The thing that I sort of struggled with was the Doctor didn't work out that the time loop was the cause of the TARDIS.
I mean, it was the most obvious thing from the start.
Yeah, and also the point is that Sarah works out that Nick's going to die, and it's not the Doctor that's worked that out. So, like the regular humans work that out, and the way it was set just seemed like, well, the Doctor wasn't really that bothered.
There was something that niggled me, like every time
it just seemed like it really sort of put a sort of like, you know, something that stopped the spokes going round. It took out the beat.
Every time it started the loop over again, because the first time it looped, you had Sarah and Nick, and they were at the reception desk, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And then the next time round, she was at reception, and then he was in the storage unit. And then every time it looped, obviously it was a minute later, but they were in the same places. They weren't in a different place where they would have been a minute after that. That's what I didn't get.
I think because after every loop, doesn't it change to where they would have been in the previous loop to that minute?
I think so.
It's not the original timeline. It's
it doesn't go back to the original one. It just goes back to the previous one.
But the thing that niggled me was, it's like the Doctor actually, A hadn't worked out that Nick was going to die. B seemed like didn't actually care.
I will say this. I agree with you on the TARDIS thing. However, I did like that it was somebody else other than the Doctor that figured out the Nick stuff. Because I'm always a fan of, I'm always a fan of other characters being intelligent other than the Doctor.
I mean, maybe the Doctor picked up that he's a fucking serial killer, and that's why she didn't care.
I don't know. It just seemed like the Doctor, the way it was blocked out and planned, it seemed like the Doctor didn't care. The other thing that sort of got to me with the Doctor part as well was just a little bit of the Dalek said, "We're here to kill you," and I wanted then the Doctor to say, "Well, do you know what? This is like." I wanted the Doctor to do something that was a little bit like, "Well, they're only after me. You guys go off, save yourself." I wanted a little bit of the self-sacrifice element as well. That was the only other thing I would have liked.
But they couldn't leave.
But they could have if they had sacrificed themselves.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Those were two things I would have liked the Doctor to have done. I thought you could have fitted into, if you're doing several different loops, you could have had, two instances of that.
I'm with you. However, although Jodie does put out, you can't really bargain with the Daleks. I think Jodie's Doctor knew that even if she died, they would just kill them anyway.
That's just.
I know what you're saying. I entirely get what you're saying. I'm not disregarding your point at all. I'm just saying that I don't know if the Daleks, if it was like maybe a master character or something like that, it could work. But
wouldn't the point be that once the Daleks have killed the Doctor, the loop would start over anyway, so they wouldn't escape?
Plus, like with all that equipment to blow up the building anyway, was all on different levels, and you needed more than one person to get it all into one place.
It was just, I don't know. I'm used to maybe just seeing the Doctor put everyone else before themselves.
Yeah, I get you.
And that was the one thing that I didn't see up until the last loop, which you have to have because you have to have your hero moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I put here, which is much more emphasis on earlier on the episode, but I thought it was good. Sarah's mum is hilarious. I think it's brilliant.
Pauline McLean's fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think she's the one who saved the day.
She's technically.
That was definitely Ashley B.
Yeah, how does that work when she's outside the time loop?
No, because they go back in time, innit? So therefore, the characters that they interact with in their lives would still go back.
So the whole world's in a time loop.
To them, yes, I suppose.
Oh, just
So-
wanted to check.
It's like it's to be if you were stuck in a time loop yourself, everyone that you
Recording episodes. Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong, but if you were stuck in a time loop yourself, everybody that you would interact with within that time loop, you would also interact with again.
That's cool. I'm just winding you up.
I'm not saying I'm right. That's the logic that I'm going with.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool.
But yeah. I thought it was cool. I thought the ending was cool. I like a cheesy ending with some fireworks. I thought it was nice. Again,
I mean, I do feel that the ending would have been greatly improved if it had been the firework display, and then as Carl was watching it, he just gets twatted on the head by a can of beef and beans flying through the air.
beef and beans. Beef. I was just giving you a new idea for a brand. Are you thinking of making your own beef and beans?
Patent pending.
Patent pending. You have to wait. Official Timeless Podcast merch.
Don't get me wrong. It'll probably be available in Forbidden Planet next week.
We're teaming up with Rowan Atkinson for the Beef and Beans sitcom.
There we go. Oh my god, that'd be great. Yeah. Right, before we get to the big thing, I have a few things that I've put a few continuity errors I thought I'd share with you. So after the first time loop, Aisling B's on the phone hangs up. She's like, it's 4 minutes to midnight. No, it's not. It's 11:51 on her phone. Number 2, she takes a phone call in a lift. I don't know whether you've ever been in a lift. That ain't happening. That I was like, that's the biggest thing that annoyed me in the whole episode. Not time loops of science. Phone call in a massive metal lift. It's not happening. What E is she on? Because I need it.
You must have turned her notifications off.
Yeah.
The button stopped working.
But yeah, I think I've got everything here apart from obviously there is a big element to this story that will be going forward in the next 2 specials.
But I'd like to have seen Keith in some way, shape, or form instead of being a character that you never see.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose, but I sort of think that's the joke, isn't it? Is that you can kind of make up your mind as to who Keith is and what it looks like.
If you had Keith show up next to Carl at the end, and he's like, "There's this all for me," and then Keith shows up and goes, "My stuff," that would have worked.
Oh, you mean Jeff?
Oh, Jeff, is that his name?
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, the original Purple
Yeah, I want to know who Jeff is.
Yeah, that's it. I'd like Jeff to have shown up.
Jeff is the master.
My name's Jeff.
Jeff. Well, there you go. That's the next New Year special. Jeff comes to time.
I see Jeff as basically like the Manchester version of Del Boy. It's just flogging beef and beans down the market.
Yeah.
What was the name of the guy with the laptop from the 11th Hour?
Oh, Jeff.
That was Jeff.
Now that would have been a fucking amazing callback.
That would have been a reveal.
He's moved from Manchester to Leadworth. But yeah, I think it's time to get into the Doctor and Yaz's relationship, which is what we found out in the story, is what some people, like John said, had theorized before. For a start, to say we found out in this story, I think is a bit selective. I mean, this is something that's been clearly hinted at from series 12. I read series 12 a lot wrong because I thought Yaz really liked Ryan, and I thought that was what it was going to end up. But
no, I mean the Villa Diodati speech in particular. By that point, it's clear that Yaz and Ryan are only friends, and his interest. You've seen his interest lie elsewhere in Awesome 55, and Yaz teasing him about it for a start. It's clear from Diodati that she's got feelings for the Doctor.
And we get some confirmation of that in this story via Dan. One thing I will say is I think it's a really good use of writing, how they've connected these 2 characters. Because they've been together for 4 years, and do you know what? The way they write the 2 of them, it feels like it. They've got a really close bond. They make fun of each other. It's really good. And I think that this was the right character to do this. And because of the 4 years they spent together, this feels earned. And it doesn't feel like it's out of nowhere. It doesn't feel like the new companions just got this out. You know what I mean? The
Well,
way that
I don't know. I think it's been done too late. You have 2 more episodes after this, and then done.
I entirely agree.
Yeah,
That's why
I agree with that, but there's nothing saying we know we're not going to get a happy ending because we know the Doctor's not going to regenerate. So whether they do it now at the end of series 12 or whatever, I don't think it a huge difference. It could possibly have come to light earlier in Flux had they not been separated, had all that not gone on. But at the same time, it's made quite clear that Yaz herself has been on a bit of a voyage of discovery with her own sexuality, and that's why it's taken her that long to admit it. And she even uses the line, doesn't she? She says that actually this is also about admitting it to herself. And I can't speak for the communities concerned, but I've certainly seen a lot of people out there on Twitter today talk about how validating and how important that is to see a young woman say that, and to see a young Asian Muslim woman say something like that. It feels like actually it might have taken her that long to accept, if you like, what she was feeling.
Well said.
I think
No,
yeah,
I agree with John. John's put it very eloquently, which he always does with things like this. And yeah, that's it. I'm nowhere near qualified from it, and nor do my feelings want to anyway take away from what it's meant or what it's given to the people who've seen that stuff on screen. I don't feel that should be my place to do it, or my feelings to be do that or taken in that way. What I would say is how I feel it could have perhaps been handled better, in the sense that it was written by someone who has that experience as opposed to Chris Chibnall, because then I feel it would be a truer reflection. I've had certain people who I know of who say, they feel it could have been handled better, because I think where Yaz gained agency over the course of Flux, it seemed like a step back from Yaz, because where the Doctor runs off, the Doctor ran off and left her and Dan for 5 years. The relationship between Yaz and Dan, and the way they talk about each other, completely earned everything like that.
Yeah.
But the situation with Yaz up and so far it's gone from a situation of not necessarily affection, but it's gone from hero worship and seeing something of Yaz has seen in the Doctor something that she wants in her own life, which is that being the master of their own destiny, adventure, everything like that. It's gone from hero worship to now it's translated to affection, whereas perhaps it could have been developed in a brilliant way. And now my concern is that it's now going to be, left, like Elijah said, gone too late. Just go out. If you're going to make a massive shift like this, then go all out in it. Don't soft soap it. Just go all for it. You've had very diverse characters within the show before, as you can see when you're seeing people's reactions to it. So go all out for it. My concern now is it's going to be Yaz's character will actually take a step back and say it's going to be a bit lovesick and everything like that, which is a step back for the character when that character got agency. And that's what I don't want to see.
Yeah, I think this is potentially leading up to the regeneration episode in a couple of episodes.
Yeah, and then it's going to be rushed.
I think what we will likely see is the Doctor effectively sacrificing herself to save Yaz.
Yeah, I don't, because I feel something like that. Then don't rush it and do it for the sake of tokenism.
Yeah.
Which, to a certain degree, you could say until we see the rest of the episodes, you can't say categorically. But with Joe Martin's Doctor, you can make the point is that there's a bit of tokenism to it there, because it's such an amazing character, and you could do so much more with it, and it deserves to be addressed better. So I think this is the problem that I have for it, is while I know it's something that fans wanted, and there's been a bit, I think whenever you have a Doctor and companion, you get shipping of some way, shape or form. Is this bowing to the internet? I don't think it is, but I think it could have been handled a lot better instead of just rushed like this.
And what I'd also say is I don't think that this is, or for me anyway, I don't think that this is a Chibnall problem. I had very strong issues with Ten and Rose. I didn't like that as a relationship. I didn't like what it did to Rose's character. So I think there's just a history of not handling the Doctor's romantic relationships well. But I'm still loving the representation. But it's not something for me. I'm just happy to see people happy.
Yeah, on that regard, absolutely. And like you said, the representation, brilliant. For me, I agree with Elijah and Beef to a degree that it's too little too late for it to be a story with weight to it, not in the sense of representation at all, but I mean, this is a big groundbreaking moment for the character, and we've only got 2 stories left to tell it, really.
But we're not starting from this point. That's the thing. But, we're not starting from this point. We've seen Yaz gradually discover how she feels about the Doctor and accept how she feels for a long time.
Sort of, but this is like this is now the jumping off point to, let's say, the next phase of whatever that may be for the character.
I think the instances that we've had leading up to this can be taken one of 2 ways.
Yeah.
As opposed to, there's inference, but you're not sure now whether you can say that's belonging to Yaz's insecurity. I don't know. But it's too. I don't know. I'd rather rather than like dancing around it, rather than dancing around an issue, just say, right, okay, yeah, we're going to go all in on it. Yeah, that's it, and just do it full on.
100%, because like you said, like Joe, I think when you said that this has been building up in subtle ways, for a couple of seasons or what have you. But I think like B says, well, you don't have to you could read into it in an entirely different way. It could just be admiration. Like you said, a lot of people did see it that way, and I'm happy that they've been validated. I think it's great. However, I think it's a bit too late to now go, this is time where we confirm that. And I think in terms of the character, it makes sense. It has had this build up and the self-discovery and all of that. That makes entire sense. However, now I just want the story to still be good and worthy of something like that. I don't want it to just be like Beef said, next episode we get a bit of love drama, and the last episode Jodie dies and it's a sad ending. Because then
we're always going to have that sad ending.
Unfortunately, I would have when the bit where the Doctor runs off, I would have liked Yaz to have had like a full-on reaction. I was saying, you ran off and fucking left me for 4 fucking years. As opposed to sort of like, oh no, don't go. And then, that's it. Then reinforce the idea of how that 4 years affected Yaz. Because it's sort of like it's half-stepped it instead of like going all in.
Absolutely.
They let the Doctor rail off at Yaz, but I would like it now that Yaz has that time to rail back at the Doctor. Yeah, the Doctor's being closed off and everything like that, but now make it Yaz's time to shine. Give Yaz the vehicle that you're wanting to do the job.
Absolutely, and I think more time would if we had it, would have given the ending, which, like you said, John, is inevitably going to be a sad one, more weight. I think I think it really depends. I think there's just kind of a lot to
I
cram
don't think
in.
there's any right way. Don't get me wrong. I don't.
No,
think
no,
there's any
absolutely.
right way. And yeah, like I said, I'm probably the wrong person, but I think what, yeah, I hope for the best.
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate to any listener, I'm only saying this from a storytelling aspect. Like I said, like Beef and John said, we are not the right people to comment on the representation side and the accuracy of that, because that's not for us here to.
We can, but we can listen to the opinions of those that are.
Absolutely. And I'm not taking away from them at all. I'm only saying this as from me as a Who fan and sort of interested to see where the story would go. I'm just a bit worried that this is going to get shortchanged by the end of it. And we're going to go, oh, that moment was great, but it didn't get enough time to manifest by the end of the era. I don't know if anybody has another opinion.
No, I think it because if you want to amplify a voice as well, then do it in the right way. With someone who's massively, with someone who's informed and able to do that. And I think to a certain degree, that's why I think, maybe Chris Chibnall looks at, hopefully, I don't know who's written all the following episodes, that he's consulted with other people.
I think the next episode is at least co-written.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that he's taken outside advisement for it to be handled in a correct and proper way.
Yeah,
that's my main concern, because the worst thing that I think, the cruelest thing that I would say is that the people who have felt a validation or a connection with what they had don't get isn't fully realised.
Absolutely. Owen, I know you might want to just remain quiet, but is there anything, what do you think about it? Do you think it makes sense? Do you think it was a good part of the episode? What are your thoughts?
Which part? Sorry.
We're talking about the Doctor and Yaz. The Yaz kind of admitting these feelings.
I kind of agree with everyone else. Really, they've left it too sort of late in the 13th Doctor's sort of run. I mean, to be honest, I've never personally really cared much for sort of relationships between the Doctor and the companion. It's with 10th Doctor and Rose, I never really cared for that sort of relationship, and then they kind of followed that on with Martha, and that didn't work, and I just don't really care much for sort of like those sort of romantic relationships in Doctor Who. For me, it was always been like how you had more of a friends sort of relationship, say like the 10th Doctor and Donna, and they were like best mates traveling around in space. That's sort of the thing that interests me more, because it just, I think for me, puts a bit more fun into an episode or a series. So yeah, I've never really been bothered about the whole Thasmin thing.
Yeah. I also want to give credit to the performance. I think Mandip Gill was superb in that scene, and I've only read good things as well from like John's people in the community who felt that was handled well. I think she did an incredible job.
Yeah, she is a cracking actress, and when you see her given something like that to handle, it's very good. It's just a shame there's not been more of that for her in the previous 3 series.
Yeah. If anything, it just shows that she's actually been underserved as an actress.
Yeah, she's been very underserved by the writing.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else anybody wants to comment on before we get to scores on the doors?
I don't want to fall down any manholes when I've been. I think hopefully made my point well.
I mean, just to say again, Aisling B for companion for 14. And what about that fucking next time trailer?
Yes, I was going to get onto scores first, and then we could geek out about.
Fair enough. Do it your way.
I was just saying, because obviously it wasn't technically part of the episode.
It did sort of overshadow it a little bit, didn't it?
But instead, she's like.
Go on. Mike, 2 seconds. Mike's playing up the back. Yeah, with that. Right. I'm sorry. I didn't. We'll ask us to geek out in a sec. I just wanted to get past this
Put
one.
me hands up. I've made a mistake.
I'm not. I'll put my hands up. But I've not made no mistake. Who wants to go?
It's all right. You didn't mean it in a nasty way.
I didn't mean in a nasty way. Who wants to go first with scores in the doors for either the Daleks?
7.5.
6.
Okay, I've gone lower than John, even though I thought it was a bit more positive. I've gone for a 6.5.
I'm gonna go with 5 moldy cheeses out of 10.
Owen,
I was going to give it an 8.
there you go. Yeah, I think in conclusion, I think most of us do genuinely agree in at least some aspects. It's a fun New Year's special. There are some problems with it, but there are also some really fun moments to be had. Aisling B's outstanding, and yeah, I think that's it. Will this be one that I go back and watch?
It's sad that the best thing out of this actually wasn't the Doctor.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a little bit of a Chibnall thing. Chibnall seems to struggle to write the Doctor after this, this time, because the character is forever changing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that seems to be it, really.
Yep. Fantastic. Right, now let's get on to that next time trailer. Which
Oh my fucking god!
Whoa!
I'll let the rest of you speak about this because I have a very limited opinion.
I mean, Chinese pirates and sea devils. More can you want?
Yes.
I mean, and for yonks, I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but for me, I've been wanting the Sea Devils to come back for a long time. I've probably said it in previous podcasts, and that I didn't want them to change in their appearance, unlike the Silurians, which were also Chibnall written stories. And yeah, so the fact that they don't look any different is amazing. Even if they are a bit CGI, it works.
I mean, what's even better is the fact that they do look different to the shitty warriors of the deep ones, and they don't look different to the Sea Devils ones, which is good. They've actually gone back to that original design, which I think you can explain off by the fact that Warriors of the Deep set about 500 years in the future.
And if you look at the necklace that the Sea Devil's wearing, has some of the netting from the
Like the
original
old string
costume.
vests, yeah.
And they've added some
string
sort of like
vests.
crustaceans in there as well in the costume.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, this is something that the new series has foreshadowed for a long time.
Yeah, there's been a lot of fan pressure.
I mean, there's, obviously you get the sketch in John Smith's notebook in Human Nature Family of Blood. There might even be references prior to that. But this is something that's been coming for a long time, and it's great that we're finally getting it.
Yeah, and I think
It's great.
People have seen a trailer, and people have often sort of like assumed just by I don't know, a silhouette or a brief glance at something, oh, it's a Sea Devil or something like that. That Omega has always been another one, so they could always bring back Omega as well. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with the opinion of I'm excited, but I'm not not as hype as you guys. I love the Sea Devils in the story. Love them as creatures. Am I worried? Yeah. I've learned after Flux and it's not to get too hyped.
I want them to be good for a new generation of fans. That's what I'd like them to do, because there's been a lot of fan pressure and a lot of and we could say to a certain degree there's been a lot of fan pressure over sort of everything throughout Chris Chibnall's era. If he does something good with it and makes it good for a new generation of fans, then I'll be happy.
And he does tend to get returning monsters right. You say after Flux, let's not get too hype. He got the Sontarans pretty bang on.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree with that.
The last episode that didn't have a returning returning villain in it was Praxius, I believe someone said today. So, maybe, play to, in inverted commas, strengths.
Would it be Can You Hear Me?
It would have been Can You Hear Me? Can You Hear Me was after Praxis. Unless you count the things from Orphan 55 as returning creatures, then it would be Praxis.
I thought
but-
Praxis was after that, but
No,
Praxis memory haze around Praxis is understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, John. I'm reserving my expectation. I'll be honest, in the back of my mind, I'm as hyped as you guys. I'm merry. I'm like, yes, sea levels, but I'm just in my head keeping that level of reservation there. So if I watch it and it doesn't perhaps hit those highs, then I'm just doing that for my own sake. But I think it's a great call. I think it's brilliant. I like the fact that Jodie in these last 3 specials is getting some blockbuster villains to go against. That's me assuming that the last one has been the Master, and that's only based on the fact that was the end of the Flux thing that they mentioned. The Master is after you or whatever.
And a prop box. Obviously.
I'm just gonna and a prop box on
And a
set,
prop box.
which I never saw, but
No
I'll
one
take
saw.
your word for it. I didn't go on Twitter, so I never saw that photo. But I'll assume it actually exists and it's real. But yeah, overall, I'm excited to see what they do. Let's go for it. Let's have some fun with some Sea Devils, shall we? I think that's going to be fun. But before we go, I just want to give you a map of what's happening on the show this month. So we're back in full swing now, essentially.
If we're not cancelled.
My plan, if we're not cancelled, my plan is to continue with the Marvel and the monthly Doctor Who reviews. Obviously, the Marvel is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I have to with beef at some point, and the Doctor Who review is the 11th hour. I went back and checked earlier because I forgot. And then also this month, me and John have our very special Royal Rumble podcast, which is always an exciting time for me and John. And also, I will be planning the second birthday podcast for the Times podcast. We did on January 31st last year. We'll be out again January 31st this year. And all the fun quiz things will be back, like the drawing and stuff we did.
You mean a birthday at the same time every year? Wow.
Oh my God. But the drawing challenge that we did where that was just a hell of a load of fun when we did that. So I'm going to bring that back this time. So, because that was just good. That was just fun. So there'll be other things as well along with that. But yeah, Jack, we're back in full swing. You'll see all the friendly faces again, and we're just going to get on with a good year. We're going to hit episode 100 at some point as well. So that'll be popping up around some point this year, and I have to figure out something to do. Worth episode 100. Who knows? But yeah, until then, we'll see you guys next time. Follow John on Twitter at johnboy_cook. You can also do the same on Instagram. Follow Owen at Dr. Disco 63. Is it the same on Insta as well, or are you different on Insta? Elijah, I'm going to be honest. Is it eCrailing1? Am I
eCrailing1 on Twitter and eCrailing on Instagram.
And Beef is at the Beefhead on Twitter. He doesn't have Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. You do, but you don't.
I don't use it, no. But Beef and Beans coming to a store near you soon. Watch this space.
What's the space?
It's out of date.
It's out 3 years out of date.
Like my pants.
And on that note, follow the Timers Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and all that. All the links down in the description. Until then, guys, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you guys all soon. Bye-bye.
Don't have nightmares. Do sleep well. Don't date serial killers.